Before we dive into the story, drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. And don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10 when we reach the end. Now, let's begin. The grand ballroom of the Grandview Hotel shimmered like something out of a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting warm golden light across marble floors, polished to a mirror shine. Round tables draped in ivory silk surrounded a dance floor where couples swayed to a live orchestra. The air smelled of expensive perfume, champagne, and the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Madison Cole stood near the entrance, clutching her small purse like a life raft, feeling completely and utterly out of place. Her simple black dress, borrowed from her roommate, suddenly felt 2 seasons out of style. The heels pinched her toes. She'd come as a +1 for her college friend, who worked in event planning. But that friend had disappeared into the chaos of coordinating the gala, leaving Madison stranded among Manhattan's elite. Alone? A woman's voice cut through Madison's thoughts. She turned to find an older woman in diamonds giving her a once-over, lips pursed in barely concealed judgment. "My date is around somewhere," Madison lied, forcing a polite smile. The woman's eyes lingered a beat too long before she turned away with a knowing smirk. Madison exhaled slowly, her cheeks burning. This was exactly why she avoided events like this. She didn't belong in this world of trust funds and country club memberships. She was a graduate student drowning in loan debt, living in a 5th-floor walk-up with unreliable heating. Just as Madison decided to escape to the bathroom for a breather, a commotion erupted near the bar. Raised voices, the sharp crack of impact. She turned instinctively, drawn like everyone else to the drama unfolding. A man stood frozen, hand pressed to his reddening cheek, shock written across his perfectly chiseled face. Opposite him, a woman in a scarlet gown trembled with fury, her hand still raised from delivering what must have been a spectacular slap. "You arrogant, self-centered bastard," the woman in red hissed, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. "You think you can buy anything, including me? We're done, Ethan, done!" She spun on her heel and stormed out, leaving the man, Ethan, standing alone as 300 pairs of eyes turned toward him. Whispers erupted like wildfire. "That's Ethan Kross." The Ethan Kross? Billionaire tech CEO. His family practically owns half of New York. Did she really just slap him in front of everyone? Madison watched, equal parts horrified and fascinated. The man, Ethan Kross, stood impossibly still. Tall, probably 6'3", with dark hair swept back, sharp jawline, and an expensive suit that probably cost more than her entire year's tuition. But it was his expression that caught her, not anger, not embarrassment, just a cold, calculating blankness like he'd already moved 3 steps ahead while everyone else gawked. Then his eyes swept the room and locked, for just a fraction of a second, on Madison. She felt her breath catch. Before she could process what that look meant, Ethan's phone buzzed audibly. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his jaw tightened. Whatever message he'd received, it wasn't good. Madison turned away, ready to finally make her escape. She'd had enough drama for one night. But as she took 2 steps toward the exit, a hand closed firmly around her wrist. She spun, startled, and found herself face to face with Ethan Kross. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Those eyes, ice blue and piercing, assessed her in a single sweep. His grip wasn't painful, but it was unrelenting. "What are you?" Madison started to protest, but he cut her off. "I need a favor." His voice was deep, controlled, the kind of voice used to giving orders and having them followed. "I don't even know you," Madison shot back, trying to pull her wrist free. His grip loosened slightly but didn't release. 60 seconds, he said, and there was something almost desperate beneath the command. I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend for 60 seconds. Madison blinked. Are you insane? Probably, he admitted, and for the first time, the corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile, almost human. But my mother just texted. She's here. She saw the slap. If I don't prove I'm fine, that I've moved on, I'll never hear the end of it. Please. The please surprised her. This man, who looked like he'd never asked for anything in his life, was asking her. Madison glanced past him and saw an elegant older woman in pearls making her way through the crowd, concern etched on her face. 60 seconds. What harm could 60 seconds do? Fine, Madison heard herself say. 60 seconds. Then you let me go. Relief flashed across Ethan's face so quickly she almost missed it. Thank you. Before Madison could brace herself, Ethan slid his arm around her waist, pulling her close against his side. The contact sent a jolt through her. He was warm, solid, and smelled faintly of cedar and something expensive she couldn't name. Ethan! The older woman reached them, her eyes flickering between her son and Madison with poorly concealed curiosity. Are you all right? I saw that dreadful scene. I'm fine, Mother, Ethan said smoothly, his voice shedding its earlier tension. Just a misunderstanding. Victoria and I weren't compatible, but I'd like you to meet someone. His arm tightened slightly around Madison's waist, a warning, a plea. Madison forced herself to smile as his mother's gaze settled on her fully. This is Madison Cole, Ethan continued, and the way he said her name, she realized with a start that he'd somehow learned it. Had he asked someone? We've been seeing each other quietly. I was planning to introduce you both soon, but circumstances accelerated the timeline. Madison's heart hammered against her ribs. She was terrible at lying, absolutely terrible. But something about the way Ethan's mother looked at her, hopeful and warm, made her swallow her protest. It's lovely to meet you, Mrs. Cross, Madison managed, her voice steadier than she felt. The older woman's face lit up. Please, call me Eleanor. And the pleasure is mine. I was beginning to worry Ethan would never find someone who could handle his impossible schedule. She reached out and squeezed Madison's free hand. You must join us for brunch this Sunday. I insist. Panic flared in Madison's chest. Sunday brunch? This was supposed to be 60 seconds. But before she could politely decline, Ethan spoke. We'd be delighted, Mother. Madison and I were just discussing our weekend plans. Eleanor beamed. Wonderful. I'll have Catherine send you the details. She air-kissed Ethan's cheek, squeezed Madison's hand once more, then glided away into the crowd, already pulling out her phone, no doubt to share the good news. The moment Eleanor was out of earshot, Madison wrenched herself free from Ethan's arm. Sunday brunch? She hissed, keeping her voice low. You said 60 seconds! Ethan had the decency to look slightly apologetic. Slightly. I know, I'm sorry. But my mother won't stop until she meets you properly now. One brunch, that's all. Then we can stage a quiet breakup. You'll never have to see me again. Madison stared at him, torn between outrage and disbelief. This man, this billionaire who'd just been publicly humiliated, was asking her to continue this insane charade. Why me? She demanded. You could have grabbed anyone. Half the women here would kill to pretend to be your girlfriend. Something flickered in Ethan's expression. You looked real, he said quietly. Everyone else here is performing, trying to be noticed. You looked like you wanted to disappear. That's real. That's what I needed my mother to see. The honesty in his voice disarmed her. Madison bit her lip, her mind racing. One brunch. She could survive one brunch, couldn't she? And besides, a tiny, shameful part of her was curious. What would it be like to step into this world, even for a moment? One brunch, she finally said, pointing a finger at his chest. Then we're done. And you owe me. Big time. Ethan's lips curved into a real smile this time. It transformed his face, softening the harsh lines, making him look younger, almost approachable. "Deal," he said, extending his hand. Madison shook it, ignoring the way her pulse jumped at the contact. As she turned to leave, Ethan called after her. "Madison!" She looked back. "Thank you," he said, and he actually meant it. Madison nodded, then disappeared into the crowd before she could do something stupid, like agree to anything else. She didn't notice Ethan watching her go, his expression unreadable, or the way his hand lingered where hers had been. The next morning, Madison woke to 17 missed calls and 43 texts. Her roommate, Sophie, sat cross-legged. On her bed, phone thrust forward like a weapon. "Explain," Sophie demanded, her eyes wide. "Explain right now why you're all over page 6 as Ethan Cross's mystery girlfriend." Madison's stomach dropped. "What?" Sophie turned her phone around. There, in high definition, was a photo of Madison and Ethan at the gala, his arm around her waist, both of them looking at Eleanor. The headline screamed, "Tech Titan Ethan Cross moves on fast. Who is mystery woman?" "Oh no," Madison whispered, scrolling through the article. Speculation ran rampant. Was she an heiress? A model? Someone from his business world? "Oh no," Sophie repeated, her voice climbing. "Mads, you're dating Ethan Cross and you didn't tell me?" "I'm not dating him," Madison protested. "It was fake. His ex slapped him, his mom showed up, he panicked, and I was stupid enough to help." Sophie's expression cycled through disbelief, amusement, and finally settled on mischief. "So you're telling me the most eligible bachelor in New York grabbed you for a fake relationship, and you said yes?" "It was supposed to be 60 seconds, Sophie burst out laughing. "How did 60 seconds turn into page 6? "His mother invited us to brunch," Madison admitted, flopping back on her bed. "I'm going to one brunch. We'll stage a breakup, and this nightmare will end." Sophie's grin turned wicked. "Or," she said slowly, "you could see where this goes. When's the last time you went on a date?" "This isn't a date. It's a performance." "Every relationship is a performance at first," Sophie countered. "The question is whether the actors start believing their own lines." Before Madison could argue, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Hello? Madison Cole?" a smooth male voice asked. "This is James, Mr. Cross's assistant. I'm calling to arrange transportation for Sunday brunch. Mr. Cross will pick you up at 10 a.m. Please text me your address." Madison's mouth opened and closed. She hadn't even confirmed she was going. But something in James's tone suggested refusal wasn't an option in Ethan Cross's world. "Fine," she said. "I'll text you." "Excellent." Mr. Cross also wanted me to mention that the restaurant has a dress code. Business formal. If you need assistance with attire, I can arrange for a selection to be sent over. Madison's cheeks burned. Of course, her borrowed dress from last night wouldn't cut it. And this man was offering to dress her like a doll. "I can handle my own clothes, thanks," she said, more sharply than intended. There was a pause. "Of course. My apologies if I overstepped. Mr. Cross simply wanted to ensure you felt comfortable." The sincerity in James's voice made Madison feel guilty for snapping. "It's fine. I'll figure it out. Thank you." After she hung up, Sophie was already pulling open Madison's closet. "Okay, emergency shopping trip. You're not showing up to brunch with Eleanor Cross in anything from this disaster zone." "I don't have money for new clothes," Madison protested. Sophie waved her hand. "My credit card has been lonely. Consider it an early birthday present. We're getting you something that says, 'I'm classy enough for your son, but not trying too hard.'" Madison groaned, but let herself be dragged out the door. If she was going to survive Sunday, she needed all the help she could get. That night, as Madison hung her new dress, a simple but elegant navy sheath, in her closet, her phone buzzed again. Ethan Cross. I saw the article. I'm sorry. I've had my PR team work on getting it pulled from some sites. Madison stared at the text, surprised. She typed back, "It's fine. Part of the deal, I guess." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Ethan Cross. For what it's worth, you photograph well. Despite herself, Madison smiled. Madison Cole. Are you flirting with me, Mr. Cross? Ethan Cross. Just stating facts, Ms. Cole. See you Sunday. Madison set her phone down, her heart doing that annoying flutter thing again. This was fake, temporary, a favor for a stranger. So why did she suddenly care what Ethan Cross thought of her? Outside her window, the city lights blazed, indifferent to the chaos unfolding in her small apartment. Sunday was 2 days away. 60 seconds had turned into a media storm. Madison had a feeling this was only the beginning. Sunday morning arrived with unseasonably warm sunshine, and Madison's nerves stretched to their breaking point. She'd changed outfits 3 times, finally settling on the navy dress Sophie had bullied her into buying. It fit perfectly, hugging her curves without being too revealing, the hemline hitting just above her knees. She paired it with simple pearl earrings her grandmother had left her, and nude heels that hopefully wouldn't betray her by causing a stumble. At exactly 10 a.m., her phone buzzed. "He's here," Sophie mouthed from the window, her eyes wide. Madison grabbed her purse, took one last steadying breath, and headed downstairs. The black Mercedes idling in front of her building looked absurdly out of place among the dented sedans and delivery trucks. The driver, an older man in a crisp uniform, stepped out and opened the back door. "Ms. Cole?" he greeted with a respectful nod. Madison slid inside and found Ethan waiting. He wore a charcoal gray suit, no tie, the top button of his white shirt undone. Casual elegance. He looked up from his phone, and for a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Surprise? Appreciation? "You look beautiful," he said, and it didn't sound like a line. It sounded honest. "Thanks," Madison managed, her cheeks warming. "You clean up okay yourself." The corner of his mouth lifted. As the car pulled into traffic, Ethan shifted to face her. "Ground rules," he said. "My mother is perceptive. She'll ask questions. We need a story." Madison nodded, her stomach twisting. "How did we meet?" "Charity event," Ethan said. 3 months ago. Art gallery. You were there covering it for a blog." "I don't write for a blog." "She doesn't know that." Madison frowned. "I'm not comfortable lying more than necessary." Ethan studied her. "All right. The truth, then, slightly adjusted. We met at an event. You're a graduate student. Communications. We started talking, exchanged numbers. Things developed quietly because I value privacy. It was close enough to the truth that Madison could work with it." "What about the slap?" "Victoria and I were never serious. She wanted something I couldn't give. We ended things. The slap was her dramatic exit." His voice was flat, but Madison caught the tension underneath. "What couldn't you give her?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. Ethan's gaze met hers, unreadable. "Myself," he said quietly. "I'm not good at letting people in." The vulnerability in those words surprised her. This wasn't the cold CEO from the tabloids. This was someone who'd built walls so high he'd forgotten how to dismantle them. "Then why fake a relationship?" Madison asked softly. "Why not just tell your mother you need time?" "Because Eleanor Cross doesn't understand time," Ethan said with a rueful smile. "She understands results. And after my father died 2 years ago, she's convinced my happiness is her responsibility. If I tell her I need time, she'll spend that time parading eligible women in front of me until I crack." Madison felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. That sounds exhausting. It is. The car pulled up to a restaurant Madison recognized from magazines. Le Ciel, perched on the 50th floor of a glass tower, exclusive enough that reservations required connections she'd never have. Inside, they were escorted to a private room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Eleanor was already there, radiant in a pale pink suit. And beside her sat a man Madison hadn't anticipated. He was younger than Ethan, maybe late 20s, with the same dark hair and sharp features, but his eyes held warmth where Ethan's held ice. "Madison!" Eleanor rose, embracing her like they were old friends. "You look absolutely lovely. I want you to meet Ethan's brother, Noah." Noah extended his hand, his smile genuine. "So you're the woman who's managed to crack my brother's fortress. I'm impressed." Madison shook his hand, caught off guard by his easy charm. "I don't know about cracking anything. We're just enjoying getting to know each other." "Enjoying?" Noah's grin widened. "Ethan doesn't enjoy anything except quarterly earnings reports." "Noah," Ethan's voice carried a warning. "What?" "I'm complimenting you. It takes someone special to make you human." The brunch unfolded with surprising ease. Eleanor asked questions, but they were gentle, genuinely curious. What was Madison studying? Where did she grow up? What did she think of New York? Madison found herself relaxing, answering honestly, even laughing at Noah's stories about Ethan's college days. He once spent 72 hours coding a program just to prove a professor wrong, Noah recounted. Didn't sleep, didn't eat, just pure stubborn brilliance. "Sounds about right," Madison said, glancing at Ethan. He met her eyes, and she saw the faintest hint of embarrassment. "I don't like being wrong," he admitted. "Shocking," Madison teased, and Noah burst out laughing. Eleanor watched them, her expression soft. "You're good for him," she said to Madison. "I haven't seen Ethan smile this much in years." Guilt twisted in Madison's stomach. This wasn't real. These smiles, this ease, it was all temporary. A performance. But when Ethan's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently, she didn't pull away. After brunch, as they walked to the car, Noah pulled Madison aside. "Can I give you some advice?" he asked, his voice low. Madison nodded, wary. "My brother's an idiot when it comes to emotions," Noah said bluntly. "But he's not cruel. If he's brought you into his life, even in whatever capacity this is, it means something. Don't let him self-sabotage. Push back." Madison blinked. "What makes you think?" "I saw the article," Noah interrupted gently. "I also saw the timeline. 3 months ago, Ethan was still with Victoria. So either he's a cheater, which he's not, or this started more recently than you're both claiming." Madison's heart sank. "Noah," he held up a hand. "I don't care about the details. Real or fake, you make him lighter. That's enough for me. Just don't hurt him, okay? He's had enough of that." Before Madison could respond, Noah walked away, leaving her standing on the sidewalk, shaken. In the car, Ethan noticed her silence. "What did Noah say?" Madison hesitated. "That you're an idiot with emotions." Ethan huffed a laugh. "He's not wrong." "He also said not to hurt you," Madison added quietly. Ethan's expression shuddered. "This is fake, Madison. You can't hurt something that isn't real." But the way he said it, the careful control in his voice, made Madison wonder if he was trying to convince her or himself. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur. What was supposed to be one brunch snowballed into a series of appearances, a gallery opening, a charity dinner, a weekend sailing trip with Eleanor and Noah. Each time Ethan would text, apologetic but insistent. "My mother's asking. Just one more." And each time Madison said yes, telling herself it was because she'd agreed to help. not because she was starting to crave the way Ethan looked at her when he thought she wasn't paying attention. They fell into a rhythm. Ethan would pick her up. They'd review their story in the car, transform into the perfect couple for whoever was watching, then retreat into careful distance the moment they were alone. Except the distance was shrinking. At the gallery opening, Ethan's hand had rested on her lower back longer than necessary. At the charity dinner, when an older man made an inappropriate comment about Madison's dress, Ethan's expression had turned glacial. His response so cutting, the man had stammered an apology and fled. And during the sailing trip, when Madison lost her balance on the deck, Ethan had caught her, his arms strong and steady, and for a moment, neither of them had moved, the wind whipping around them, his face inches from hers. "You okay?" he'd asked, his voice rough. "Yeah," she'd whispered, but her heart had been pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with almost falling. Now, sitting in her apartment on a Tuesday night, Madison stared at her laptop screen. She'd been trying to work on her thesis for an hour, but her mind kept drifting. Her phone buzzed. "Ethan Cross. Are you free Thursday?" Madison Cole. Define free. Ethan Cross. Not obligated to attend a tedious corporate function with me. Madison smiled despite herself. Madison Cole. That's a terrible sales pitch. Ethan Cross. I'll make it worth your while. Madison Cole. How? 3 dots appeared and disappeared several times. Then her phone rang. She answered, her pulse quickening at the sound of his voice. "Have you ever been to Montauk?" Ethan asked. "The beach town?" "No, why?" "I have a house there. Small, private. No cameras, no performances. I thought maybe we could both use a break from the city. Just for a day." Madison's breath caught. A whole day. Alone. No pretense. It felt like crossing a line. "Ethan, I don't think—" "As friends," he interrupted quickly. "Or co-conspirators. Whatever you want to call this. He paused, and she heard him exhale. "I'd like to spend time with you when we're not acting." The honesty in his voice undid her. "Thursday," Madison said. "I have classes until 3. I'll pick you up at 4. That Thursday, Madison told Sophie she was going to the library. The lie tasted sour, but she wasn't ready to explain what she didn't understand herself. The drive to Montauk took 2 hours. Ethan drove himself. No driver. No entourage. He'd swapped his usual suit for dark jeans and a navy sweater, sleeves pushed up to his elbows. He looked younger, more relaxed. They talked about inconsequential things at first. Music preferences, favorite foods. Madison learned he could cook, that he'd spent a summer in Italy learning from his mother's family, that his favorite meal was something simple. Pasta with olive oil and garlic, eaten at midnight when the world was quiet. "You're not what I expected," Madison admitted as the city gave way to coastal highway. Ethan glanced at her. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. More arrogance. More of the cold CEO everyone writes about." "That's armor," Ethan said quietly. "When you're responsible for 10,000 employees, when every decision you make affects lives, you can't afford to be soft. But it's exhausting, pretending nothing touches you." "So why let me see past it?" Madison asked. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "Because you don't want anything from me," he finally said. "Everyone else does. Money, connections, access. But you agreed to help a stranger because you have a good heart. That's rare." Madison's chest tightened. If only he knew she was lying every time she let him believe she didn't want anything. Because the truth was, she was starting to want everything. The house in Montauk was exactly as Ethan described, small by his standards, which meant it was still bigger than any place Madison had ever lived. Floor-to-ceiling windows faced the ocean. The interior, all white walls, and natural wood. Simple and beautiful. "It was my father's," Ethan said, setting down the bag of groceries they'd picked up on the way. He'd come here when the board was driving him crazy. After he died, I couldn't sell it. It's perfect, Madison said, drawn to the windows, the endless stretch of gray-blue water beyond. They cooked dinner together, or rather, Ethan cooked, while Madison chopped vegetables and tried not to slice her finger off. He moved through the kitchen with surprising confidence, and Madison found herself watching his hands, the precise way he minced garlic, the ease with which he tossed pasta. "You're staring," Ethan said without looking up, but she heard the smile in his voice. "I'm supervising," Madison corrected, "making sure you don't poison us. I'll have you know my risotto once made a food critic weep." Tears of joy or food poisoning? Ethan pointed his wooden spoon at her in mock threat. "Keep it up, and I'll make you do the dishes." They ate on the deck, wrapped in blankets as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The pasta was, annoyingly, the best Madison had ever tasted. "Okay, the food critic was right," she admitted. "This is incredible." Ethan's smile was pure satisfaction. "Told you." As the sky darkened and stars began to appear, they stayed outside, the sound of waves filling the comfortable silence between them. "Can I ask you something?" Madison said eventually. "Why did Victoria really slap you?" Ethan's jaw tightened. She wanted marriage, a big wedding, a partnership that would merge our family's businesses. She had the next 10 years planned out. "And you didn't want that?" "I didn't love her," Ethan said simply. "I tried. I thought maybe love was something that grew with time, but it didn't. And when I told her I couldn't marry someone I didn't love, she accused me of wasting her time, of being incapable of love." "That's not fair," Madison said quietly. "Maybe she's right," Ethan said, staring out at the dark water. "Maybe I am incapable. I've spent so long building walls, I don't know how to tear them down." Madison turned to face him fully. "The fact that you're worried about it proves you're not incapable. You're just scared." Ethan met her eyes, and the vulnerability there stole her breath. "What if I hurt someone?" he asked. "What if I let someone in and I'm still not enough?" "Then you pick up the pieces and try again," Madison said. "That's what being human means. We're all terrified and stumbling and hoping we don't destroy each other." Something shifted in Ethan's expression. He reached out, his hand cupping her cheek, thumb brushing across her skin. "You're too wise for someone so young," he murmured. "I'm 25, not 12, Madison managed, her voice unsteady. "Still young," Ethan said, but he was leaning closer, and Madison's heart was pounding so loudly she was sure he could hear it. When his lips met hers, it wasn't urgent or demanding. It was soft, questioning, like he was giving her every chance to pull away. But Madison didn't pull away. She leaned in, her hands finding his shoulders, kissing him back with every confused, terrified, hopeful feeling she'd been trying to suppress for weeks. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "This complicates things," he whispered. "Yeah," Madison agreed, but she was smiling. They stayed on the deck until the cold drove them inside, and even then, Ethan didn't let go of her hand. Madison woke the next morning to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a disoriented moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. Montauk. Ethan. The kiss. She sat up quickly, her heart racing. She'd fallen asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. Ethan must have covered her. Through the open doorway, she could see him on the deck, phone pressed to his ear, his expression tense. Business, even here. Madison found the bathroom, splashed water on her face, and tried to steady her nerves. What happened now? Were they together? Still fake dating? Something in between? When she emerged, Ethan was off the phone, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "Morning," he said, and his smile was uncertain, almost shy. "Morning," Madison echoed, accepting the mug. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I have in weeks." They stood in awkward silence until both of them spoke at once. "About last night. We should talk." They stopped, laughed nervously. Ethan gestured for Madison to go first. "I just want to make sure we're on the same page," Madison said carefully. "About what this is." Ethan set down his mug. "I don't do casual, Madison. I know that makes me sound arrogant or old-fashioned. But if we're going to do this, be together for real, I need you to know I'm all in. No half measures." Relief flooded through her. "I don't do casual either." "Good." Ethan stepped closer, his hands framing her face. "Then let's stop pretending." He kissed her again, and this time it felt like a promise. They spent the rest of the morning walking the beach, fingers intertwined, talking about everything. Madison told him about growing up in a small town in Pennsylvania, about her father who'd worked double shifts to put her through school, about her dreams of one day running her own communications firm. Ethan shared stories about the pressure of inheriting his father's company at 28, about the loneliness of always being seen as a symbol rather than a person. "I never wanted the company," he admitted as they sat on a driftwood log, waves lapping at their feet. "I wanted to teach computer science. I love the elegance of code, the way it all fits together logically." "So why didn't you?" Ethan shrugged. "Duty. Legacy. My father had a heart attack in his office. His last words to me were, 'Don't let it fall apart.' How do you walk away from that?" Madison squeezed his hand. "You're allowed to have your own life, you know." "Maybe," Ethan said, "but not yet." On the drive back to the city, reality crept back in. Ethan had board meetings. Madison had classes and thesis deadlines. The bubble they'd existed in for 24 hours was popping. "So what now?" Madison asked as they hit Manhattan traffic. "Now we do this for real," Ethan said. "No more fake girlfriend. Actual dating, with all the complications that come with it." "Your mother will be thrilled," Madison teased. Ethan groaned. "Please don't remind me. She'll want to plan our wedding by next week." Madison laughed, but a small part of her wondered what that would be like. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt warm. Possible. When Ethan dropped her off at her apartment, he walked her to the door despite her protests. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said. "We'll figure out schedules." "Okay." Madison was about to turn away when Ethan caught her hand, pulling her back for one more kiss. A couple walking by whistled and cheered. They broke apart, both flushing, and Madison hurried inside before she could combust from embarrassment. Sophie took one look at her face and screamed. "Oh my God! You slept with him!" "I didn't," Madison protested, but she was grinning. "We just talked and kissed. A lot." "I knew it," Sophie crowed. "I knew the fake relationship would turn real. This is like every romance novel ever." Madison flopped onto the couch, her entire body buzzing. "Soph, what if I'm in over my head? He's Ethan Cross. I'm a broke grad student. This is insane." Sophie sat beside her, expression turning serious. "Love is always insane. But he makes you happy. I haven't seen you smile like this in years. Don't overthink it." Madison nodded, but doubt still nagged at her. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through social media. The photos from their fake dating appearances were everywhere, dissected and analyzed. She read the comments, equal parts fascinated and horrified. "She's so average. What does he see in her? Gold digger. She must be amazing in bed. True love. They look so happy together." Madison closed the app, her stomach churning. What would people say when they found out she and Ethan were really together now? That she'd been fake dating him first? The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Ethan integrated her into his life with a determination that was both flattering and overwhelming. Dinners at upscale restaurants, quiet nights at his penthouse, meet the team events at his company. Madison met his executives, his closest friends, even his childhood nanny who hugged her and declared she had kind eyes. Eleanor was, predictably, over the moon. She invited Madison to a spa day, then shopping, then a weekend at the family's estate in the Hamptons. "I always wanted a daughter," Eleanor confided as they walked through her rose garden. "Noah and Ethan are wonderful, but they don't appreciate flowers or good gossip." Madison laughed, charmed despite herself. She was falling for Ethan's whole family, not just him. But the demands were mounting. Between classes, thesis work, and spending time with Ethan, Madison barely slept. She started missing deadlines, skipping study groups. Her advisor called her in, concerned. "Madison, your work is slipping," Professor Chin said gently. "Is everything all right?" "I'm fine," Madison lied. "Just busy. You're one of my best students. Don't throw away your future for distractions." Madison nodded, guilt weighing on her. That night, Ethan noticed her distraction during dinner. "What's wrong?" Madison poked at her pasta. "My advisor thinks I'm throwing away my future." Ethan set down his fork. "Because of me." "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Madison, your education comes first. Always. If I'm taking too much of your time—" "You're not," Madison interrupted. "I want to be with you. I just need to find balance." "Then let me help," Ethan said. "I'll back off on the public events, and if you need a quiet place to work, my penthouse office is yours. No distractions, I promise." Madison smiled gratefully. The following Saturday, Madison was deep in research at Ethan's penthouse when Noah showed up unannounced. "Hey, stranger," he greeted, dropping onto the couch beside her. "I hear you've been demoted from fake girlfriend to real girlfriend. Congratulations or condolences?" Madison laughed. "A bit of both." Noah grinned, but his eyes were serious. "Can I be honest?" "Please." "Ethan's different with you. Happier. But he's also terrified. Our father put enormous pressure on him. Any woman he dates gets scrutinized as a potential weakness. People will come after you to get to him." Madison's chest tightened. "I can handle it." "I believe you," Noah said. "But I wanted you to know what you're signing up for. It's not just tabloids. It's business rivals, jealous exes, board members who think a girlfriend is a distraction. It's a lot." "Why are you telling me this?" Madison asked quietly. "Because I like you," Noah said simply. "And I don't want you blindsided." That night, when Ethan came home, Madison was quiet. He noticed immediately. "Noah stopped by," she admitted. "He warned me about the scrutiny." Ethan's expression darkened. "I'll talk to him." "No," Madison said quickly. "He was trying to help. And he's right, isn't he? Dating you means living under a microscope." Ethan pulled her into his arms. "I won't lie to you. It's difficult. But if anyone can handle it, it's you. You're the strongest person I know." Madison buried her face in his chest, breathing in his familiar scent. She wanted to believe him. But a small voice whispered that strength wouldn't be enough if the world decided she didn't belong. 3 months into their real relationship, everything shattered. Madison was at Ethan's penthouse, making tea in his kitchen, when his laptop pinged with an email notification. She wasn't snooping. The screen was open, facing her. But the subject line made her freeze. "Background check, Madison Cole." Her hands trembled as she set down the mug. Background check. Without thinking, driven by a surge of betrayal, she clicked. The email was from a private investigation firm. Detailed, invasive. Her financial records, academic history, family background, even her father's medical bills from his cancer treatment 3 years ago. Everything laid bare. And at the top, a date. 2 days before their first brunch with Eleanor. Before Montauk. Before any of it was real. Ethan had investigated her, vetted her like a business acquisition. The front door opened. Ethan's voice called out, "Madison? You here?" She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Ethan walked into the kitchen, saw her standing frozen at his laptop, and his face went pale. "Madison, you investigated me," she said, her voice hollow. "You had someone dig into my life. My family." Ethan's jaw tightened. "I can explain." "When?" Madison demanded, anger breaking through the numbness. "When did you do this?" He hesitated, and that hesitation told her everything. "Before our first brunch," he admitted. "It's standard procedure. Anyone who enters my inner circle gets vetted. For security." "Security," Madison's voice rose. "I'm your girlfriend, not a business merger." "You were a stranger I pulled into my life," Ethan shot back. "I had to make sure you weren't a threat, that you weren't using me." The words hit like a slap. "Using you? I helped you because you looked desperate. I didn't ask for any of this? And I'm supposed to just trust that?" Ethan's voice hardened, his walls slamming back up. "In my world, people lie. They manipulate. Forgive me for being careful." "Careful?" Madison laughed bitterly. "You invaded my privacy. You read about my father's medical bills, about the debt we're still paying off. Did that satisfy you? Did you feel safe knowing I'm too poor to be a threat?" "That's not fair," Ethan said. "None of this is fair." Madison grabbed her bag. "I trusted you. I let you in. And the whole time you had a file on me like I was a suspect." "Madison, wait." She spun on him, tears streaming now. "Did you ever really trust me? Or was I always just a calculated risk?" Ethan flinched, and his silence was answer enough. Madison walked out. She made it to the elevator before the sobs came, great gasping things that shook her whole body. By the time she reached her apartment, she was numb again. Sophie found her sitting on the floor, staring at nothing. "Mads? What happened?" Madison told her everything. Sophie's expression cycled through shock, anger, and finally, heartbreak. "Oh, honey," she whispered, pulling Madison into a hug. Over the next few days, Ethan called 17 times, sent dozens of texts. Madison deleted them all without reading. Eleanor called too, worried. Madison sent a polite text saying she needed space, hating how much it hurt to lie to Eleanor. On the 4th day, Noah showed up at her apartment. "Before you slam the door," he said quickly, "I'm not here to defend him. I'm here because he's a mess, and you deserve to know why he did it." Madison let him in, mostly because she was too tired to argue. Noah sat across from her, hands clasped. "After our father died, Ethan became obsessed with control. He'd lost the most important person in his life suddenly, violently. He couldn't control that. So he started controlling everything else. Every variable, every risk. That's not an excuse," Madison said flatly. "No," Noah agreed, "but it's context. The background check wasn't about you. It was about him being terrified of losing control again." "He didn't lose me," Madison said bitterly. "He pushed me away." "I know," Noah sighed. "For what it's worth, I've never seen him like this. He's not eating, barely sleeping. He's in love with you, Mads, maybe for the first time in his life. And he doesn't know how to fix what he broke." Madison's chest ached. "I don't know if I can trust him again." "Then don't," Noah said simply. "Not right away. Make him earn it back. But maybe, eventually, give him the chance to try." After Noah left, Madison sat with her thoughts. She was angry, hurt, betrayed. But underneath all that, she still loved Ethan. And that was the most painful part. A week after the fight, Madison's thesis advisor called her into the office. "I have good news," Professor Chen said. "Your thesis proposal has been accepted. If you can complete the research and writing by end of semester, you'll graduate with honors." It should have been exciting news. Instead, Madison felt hollow. "Thank you," she managed. That night, unable to sleep, Madison walked through Central Park. It was nearly midnight, the paths lit by vintage lamps. She ended up at Bow Bridge, staring at the water. "I thought I might find you here." Madison spun. Ethan stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, looking more exhausted than she'd ever seen him. Dark circles under his eyes, hair disheveled. "Are you following me now?" Madison asked, too tired for real anger. "No. I've been coming here every night, hoping you might too. This is where we walked after that first charity dinner. Remember?" Madison did remember. They'd been pretending then, but Ethan had told her about his favorite childhood spot, this bridge. "What do you want, Ethan?" "To apologize," he said quietly, "and to explain if you'll let me." Madison stayed silent, which he took as permission. "You were right. The background check was invasive and wrong. But Noah's right too. I was terrified. My father trusted the wrong person once, and it nearly destroyed the company. After he died, I swore I'd never be that vulnerable again. So I investigated everyone. Business partners, friends, even Victoria. That doesn't make it better," Madison said. "I know." Ethan stepped closer. "But here's what I've realized this past week. Life without you is the loneliest I've ever been. Lonelier than after my father died. Because you saw past all my armor, and instead of using it against me, you just loved me anyway. And I threw that away because I was too scared to trust it." Tears slipped down Madison's cheeks. "You hurt me." "I know," Ethan whispered, "and I'll spend however long it takes making it up to you, if you'll let me." Madison wanted to say no, to walk away and protect her heart. But she remembered Montauk, the way Ethan had looked at her when he admitted he was scared of hurting someone, the vulnerability he'd shown her that he showed no one else. "I need time," she finally said. "I need to figure out if I can really trust you again." "I'll wait," Ethan said immediately. "As long as you need." Madison nodded, turned to leave, then stopped. "Ethan?" "Yeah?" "Delete the file, all of it." "I already did," he said, "the day after you left." It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. 2 weeks passed. Madison threw herself into her thesis, spending 14-hour days in the library. She ignored social media, avoided anywhere she might run into Ethan or his world. But she couldn't avoid Eleanor. The older woman showed up at a coffee shop near campus, elegant as always, but her eyes were sad. "I'm not here to pressure you," Eleanor said gently. "I just wanted to make sure you're all right." Madison's defenses crumbled. "I don't know if I am." Eleanor reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Ethan told me what he did, and I won't defend him. But I will tell you something about my son. When his father died, Ethan was 28. Still young, barely ready. He had to step into massive shoes while grieving. He made himself hard because soft meant vulnerable, and vulnerable meant the company could fall apart. But with you, I saw him soften again. I saw my son, not just the CEO." "Then why did he investigate me?" Madison asked, her voice breaking. "Because old wounds make us foolish," Eleanor said sadly. "But love gives us the chance to heal them. If you choose to walk away, I'll understand. But if even a small part of you thinks this is worth fighting for, don't let pride stop you." That night, Madison pulled out her phone and scrolled through her deleted messages folder. She restored Ethan's texts, reading them for the first time. "Madison, I'm sorry. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know that investigating you was the biggest mistake of my life. I don't have excuses, just regret. I miss you. Not the performance version. The real you. The one who challenges me and makes me laugh and reminds me there's more to life than boardrooms. I understand if you hate me. But please know that these past months with you were the happiest I've been since my father died. I won't contact you again unless you want me to. But I'll be here, hoping. Love, Ethan. The word love stood out. He'd never said it out loud. Madison stared at her phone for a long time. Then she typed, "Can we talk?" The response came in less than a minute. Anytime, anywhere. Madison Cole. Tomorrow. The park. Noon. Ethan Cross. I'll be there. Madison spent the next morning rehearsing what she'd say. But when she arrived at the park and saw Ethan waiting on a bench, looking nervous and hopeful and terrified all at once, every planned word evaporated. "Hi," she managed. "Hi," Ethan echoed, standing. "Thank you for coming." They walked in silence for a few minutes before Madison spoke. "I've been thinking about what you said, about being scared." "Madison, let me finish," she interrupted gently. "You're not the only one who's scared. I've been terrified since the day you kissed me. Terrified that I wasn't good enough for your world. That people would think I was using you. That I'd wake up and you'd realize I was just some broke grad student who didn't belong." Ethan stopped walking, turning to face her fully. "You're not—" "I know," Madison said. "Rationally, I know. But fear isn't rational. And here's what I realized. If I walk away because I'm scared of being hurt again, I'm doing the same thing you did. I'm choosing control over trust." Ethan's eyes shimmered. "So what are you saying?" Madison took a breath. "I'm saying I want to try again. But things have to change. No more investigations. No more secrets. If we're going to do this, we do it with complete honesty, even when it's uncomfortable." "Deal," Ethan said immediately. "Anything you need." "And I need you to trust me," Madison continued. "Really trust me. Not just say you do, but believe it. Can you do that?" Ethan was quiet for a moment, and Madison appreciated that he didn't rush to answer. "I want to," he finally said. "I'm not sure I know how, but I want to learn. Will you teach me?" Despite everything, Madison smiled. "That's the most honest thing you've ever said to me." Ethan stepped closer, his hands coming up to frame her face. "Then here's another honest thing. I love you, Madison Cole. I should have said it sooner. I should have shown it better. But I love you, and I'll spend however long it takes proving that you can trust me." Madison's tears spilled over. "I love you too. Even when I wanted to hate you, I couldn't." When Ethan kissed her, it felt different than before. Less desperate, more certain. Like they'd both jumped off a cliff and found each other on the way down. They spent the rest of the afternoon in the park, talking through everything. Ethan explained his therapy sessions, the work he was doing to address his control issues. Madison shared her fears about finishing her thesis, about what came after graduation. "I want you to have your own life," Ethan said. "Your own career, your own dreams. Not just exist in orbit around mine." "What if our lives don't fit together?" Madison asked quietly. "Then we make them fit," Ethan said. "We compromise. We adjust. That's what partnerships are." Madison leaned against him, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. When they finally left the park, Ethan walked her home. At her building's entrance, he hesitated. "Can I see you tomorrow?" "You better," Madison said. "We have a lot of time to make up for." Ethan grinned, and it was the real smile, the one that transformed his whole face. "Same time?" "It's a date." As Madison headed upstairs, Sophie was waiting with wine and a knowing smile. "So we're trying again," Madison said. "And this time, it's going to work." Sophie hugged her tight. I'm glad. You two are disgustingly perfect together. Over the next month, Madison and Ethan rebuilt their relationship brick by careful brick. They went on actual dates now, movie nights at her apartment, cooking lessons at his place, a weekend trip to visit Madison's father in Pennsylvania, where Ethan charmed her dad with stories about coding and promised to help with the medical bills, no strings attached. I like him, her father said after Ethan stepped outside to take a call. He looks at you like you hung the moon. Madison's chest warmed. He's pretty special. Then don't let fear win, her father advised. Your mother and I had nothing when we started, just love and stubbornness. Sometimes that's enough. Madison's thesis was coming together, too. With Ethan's quiet support and space to work, she finished her research and began writing. Professor Chen called her work exceptional, and Madison felt pride swell in her chest. She was doing this, building a life on her own terms. One evening, Ethan surprised her with dinner at Le Ciel, the same restaurant where they'd had brunch with Eleanor and Noah months ago. Feeling nostalgic? Madison teased as they were led to a private table. Something like that, Ethan said, but he seemed nervous. After they'd ordered, Ethan took her hand across the table. Madison, these past months have been the best of my life. Even with the mistakes and the fights, I've never been happier. Madison squeezed his fingers. Me too. I know you're graduating soon, Ethan continued, and I know you're thinking about what comes next. Job offers, career paths, all of it. I am, Madison admitted. She'd been putting off the conversation, nervous about how their futures would align. I have a proposition, Ethan said, and Madison's heart sank slightly. A proposition sounded so clinical. My company is launching a new communications division. We need someone to lead it. Someone brilliant, creative, and not afraid to challenge me. He paused. I want it to be you. Madison blinked. Ethan, before you say no, hear me out. This isn't charity. This isn't me trying to keep you close. This is me recognizing talent. You'd report to the board, not me. Your own team, your own projects. Completely independent. Madison's mind raced. It was an incredible opportunity. But working for Ethan's company? I need to think about it, she said carefully. Of course, Ethan said immediately. No pressure. But Madison? Yeah. Whatever you decide, it doesn't change us. If you take a job across the country, I'll make it work. Your happiness matters more than proximity. Madison's eyes stung. How did I get so lucky? I'm pretty sure I'm the lucky one, Ethan said softly. That night, lying in Ethan's arms, Madison thought about the offer. The scared part of her wanted to refuse, to prove she could succeed independently. But the brave part whispered that maybe accepting help wasn't weakness. Maybe it was trust. Madison accepted the job, not because Ethan offered it, but because after researching the role and interviewing with the board, she realized it was exactly what she wanted. A chance to build something from the ground up, to shape communication strategy for a company making real impact. Her first day was both thrilling and terrifying. Ethan had kept his promise. She reported to the CFO, not him. But the whispers followed her through the halls. That's Cross's girlfriend. She only got the job because she's sleeping with the boss. Madison held her head high, determined to prove them wrong. Within 3 months, her division launched 2 successful campaigns. Within 6, they'd increased the company's positive media coverage by 40%. The whispers changed. She's actually good. Maybe Cross chose her for talent, not just looks. Ethan was careful to maintain boundaries at work. In the office, they were professional, cordial. He didn't call her to his office for personal conversations, didn't show favoritism. It frustrated her sometimes, but she appreciated the respect. At home, though, they were inseparable. Madison still kept her apartment, but she spent more nights at Ethan's penthouse than her own bed. They fell into easy domesticity, cooking together, arguing over TV shows, leaving notes for each other when schedules conflicted. One Saturday morning, Madison woke to find Ethan already dressed, unusually formal. "Where are you going?" she mumbled, still half asleep. "Family meeting," Ethan said, adjusting his tie. "Bored stuff. I'll be back this afternoon." "Okay." Madison pulled the blanket tighter. "Love you." "Love you too." But something in his expression seemed off, nervous. Madison was helping Sophie move furniture later that afternoon when her phone rang. Eleanor. "Madison, dear, are you free? I'd love to have you over for tea." It wasn't unusual. Madison and Eleanor had grown close, often meeting without Ethan present. But something in Eleanor's voice sounded strange. "Of course, when?" "Now, if possible." Madison drove to the Cross Estate, a sprawling property in Westchester. Eleanor greeted her warmly, but as they settled in the garden with tea, the older woman's hands trembled slightly. "Eleanor, what's wrong?" Madison asked. Eleanor set down her cup. "I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to promise you'll let Ethan explain before you react." Dread pooled in Madison's stomach. "What is it?" "The board has decided to take the company public," Eleanor said carefully. "It's been in the works for over a year. Ethan's been fighting it, but they have the votes." "Okay," Madison said slowly. "What does that have to do with me?" Eleanor's eyes were sad. When a company goes public, everything is scrutinized, including the CEO's personal life. The board has concerns about Ethan's relationship with you. Madison's blood ran cold. "Concerns? They think it's a liability," Eleanor said, anger creeping into her voice. "A CEO dating an employee, even one who reports elsewhere. They're worried about optics, about lawsuits, about perception." "So what are they asking?" Madison's voice was hollow. "They want Ethan to either end the relationship or step down as CEO." The world tilted. Madison stood abruptly, her teacup clattering. "He's not going to choose me over the company, his father's company, his legacy." "He told them to go to hell," Eleanor said quietly. "What?" "This morning's meeting. They gave him the ultimatum. Ethan told them if they couldn't accept you, they could find a new CEO." Madison couldn't breathe. "Eleanor, he can't. He can't throw away everything for me." "He can, and he will," Eleanor said, standing to grip Madison's shoulders. "Because he loves you more than he loves the company. And I need you to decide if you love him enough to fight this with him, or if you're going to make the choice for him and walk away." Madison drove back to the city in a daze. When she reached the penthouse, Ethan was there, staring out the windows, shoulders tense. "Your mother told me," Madison said without preamble. Ethan turned, his expression guarded. "I was going to tell you tonight. I wanted to have a plan first." "You told them no," Madison said. "You chose me." "Of course I did. Ethan, you can't lose the company because of me." "I'm not losing it," Ethan said firmly. "I'm setting terms. If they can't accept that I'm allowed to have a personal life, then I don't want to lead them." "But your father would want me to be happy," Ethan interrupted. "He'd want me to have what he had with my mother, a partner, real love, not some sterile existence where I sacrifice everything for a company that demands I be alone." Madison's eyes filled. "What if they don't back down?" "Then I walk," Ethan said simply. "I'll start something new. Or I'll teach, like I always wanted. But I won't give you up, not for them, not for anyone." Madison crossed the room, wrapping her arms around him. "You're an idiot," she whispered. "I know," Ethan said, holding her tight. "But I'm your idiot." They stood like that for a long time, drawing strength from each other. The next week was brutal. The board leaked the story to the press. Tabloids ran wild. Tech CEO chooses girlfriend over company. Madison Cole, homewrecker or true love? Cross family dynasty crumbles. Madison couldn't leave her apartment without cameras in her face. Her social media exploded with vitriol and support in equal measure. Ethan's PR team worked overtime, but the damage was spreading. Then Noah did something unexpected. He called a press conference. Madison watched from Ethan's penthouse as Noah, usually the playful younger brother, stood before a sea of reporters, his expression carved from stone. "I'm here to address the ridiculous narrative being spun about my brother and Madison Cole," Noah began. "Let me be clear. Madison didn't seduce Ethan. She didn't manipulate him. She's a talented professional who earned her position through merit. The board's ultimatum isn't about her. It's about control. It's about old men uncomfortable with the idea that a CEO can be human, can have emotions, can prioritize love alongside business." He paused, letting that sink in. Ethan built this company into what it is today. Under his leadership, revenue tripled. We've launched programs that changed lives. And now, because he refuses to be alone, they want him gone? That's not leadership. That's cowardice. If the board pushes Ethan out, they'll lose more than a CEO. They'll lose shareholders' trust. They'll lose employees' loyalty. And they'll lose me because I'll walk with him. The room erupted. Questions flew. But Noah simply walked away, leaving the media to spin. Within hours, shareholders were calling emergency meetings. Employees started circulating petitions. Social media swung in Ethan's favor. 3 days later, the board blinked. They released a statement. After careful consideration, the board recognizes that Mr. Cross's personal life does not impact his professional capabilities. We look forward to continuing under his exemplary leadership as we navigate going public. Ethan stared at the statement on his phone, then looked at Madison, who'd been staying with him through the chaos. "We won," he said, sounding almost disbelieving. "Noah won," Madison corrected. "Remind me to buy him something really expensive." Ethan laughed, and the sound was filled with relief and joy and exhaustion. That night, they celebrated quietly. Just the two of them, take-out Chinese food and bad television. Normal. Perfect. "I have something for you," Ethan said during a commercial break. He handed Madison a small box. She opened it to find a key. "Is this?" "To the penthouse," Ethan confirmed. "I know you still have your apartment. I'm not asking you to move in officially, but I want you to know you always have a place here. That this is your home too, whenever you want it." Madison turned the key over in her palm, overwhelmed. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for fighting for us," Ethan said. "I know this past week was hell. You could have walked away." "I thought about it," Madison admitted, "for like 5 minutes. Then I remembered I'm stubborn, and I don't let other people make my choices for me." Ethan kissed her softly. "I love you're stubborn." "Good," Madison said, "because you're stuck with it." As they settled back into the couch, Madison felt something shift. They'd survived the worst. The investigations, the betrayals, the public scrutiny, and they'd come through it together, stronger. Whatever came next, she knew they could handle it. Together. 6 months later, Madison stood in front of her bathroom mirror, staring at the small velvet box hidden in her medicine cabinet. Inside was a tie clip, simple but elegant, engraved with coordinates. The spot where they'd first kissed in Montauk. She'd been planning to give it to Ethan tonight, their 1-year anniversary of being officially together, when he wasn't pretending and she wasn't investigating. But now her hands were shaking, and she couldn't figure out why she was so nervous. It was just a gift. Except it wasn't. It was a promise. A future. "You ready?" Sophie called from the living room. Madison had officially moved into Ethan's penthouse 3 months ago, but Sophie still had a key and used it liberally. Almost, Madison called back, tucking the box into her purse. She'd chosen a simple dress, emerald green, Ethan's favorite color on her. When she emerged, Sophie Wolf whistled. He's going to lose his mind. That's the plan, Madison said, but her stomach was fluttering. Ethan was taking her somewhere, a surprise. He'd been cryptic all week, and Noah had been smirking every time she asked questions, which meant the whole family was in on whatever was happening. The car picked her up at 7. But instead of Ethan waiting inside, it was Eleanor. Eleanor, what's... Humor an old woman, Eleanor said, eyes twinkling. Ethan's waiting at the destination. I wanted a few minutes with you first. As the car wound through the city, Eleanor took Madison's hands. You've made my son happier than I've ever seen him. You've made our whole family brighter. You've made me feel like I have a family, Madison said, her throat tight. I never had a mother growing up. You filled that space. Eleanor's eyes glistened. Then I'm going to give you some motherly advice. Whatever happens tonight, trust your heart. It's gotten you this far. Before Madison could ask what that meant, the car stopped. They were at the docks, where a yacht bobbed gently in the water. Ethan stood at the gangway, devastatingly handsome in a dark suit, holding a single white rose. Hi, Madison breathed as she approached. Hi, Ethan said, his voice rough with emotion. He offered his arm, and Madison took it, letting him guide her onto the yacht. It was just the two of them, she realized. No crew, no other passengers. Just candles lining the deck and soft music playing from hidden speakers. As the yacht pulled away from the dock, Manhattan's skyline glittering behind them, Ethan led Madison to the bow. 1 year ago, he said quietly, I grabbed a stranger's wrist and asked her to pretend to be my girlfriend for 60 seconds. 60 seconds, Madison echoed, smiling at the memory. I was so annoyed with you. I know. Ethan turned to face her fully. But somewhere in those 60 seconds, something real started. And over the past year, you've taught me things I thought I'd never learn. How to trust, how to be vulnerable, how to let someone love me without being afraid they'll use it against me. Madison's eyes were already filling. Ethan, let me finish, he said gently. I spent so many years building walls, convincing myself that control was safety. And then you walked into my life, challenged me at every turn, and made me realize that love isn't about control. It's about trust. It's about choosing someone every day, even when it's scary. He reached into his pocket, and Madison's breath caught as he pulled out a small box. Madison Cole, you've been my fake girlfriend, my real girlfriend, my partner, my best friend. I want you to be my wife. He opened the box, revealing a ring that caught the candlelight. Simple, elegant, a single diamond on a platinum band. Will you marry me? Madison was crying fully now, her hands shaking as they came up to cover her mouth. 1,000 thoughts rushed through her mind. The night they met. Montauk. The fights. The makeups. The way he'd fought for her against his own board. The way she'd chosen him again and again. Yes, she whispered. Then louder. Yes. Ethan's face broke into the biggest smile she'd ever seen. His hands trembled slightly as he slid the ring onto her finger. And then he was kissing her. And Madison was laughing and crying simultaneously. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Madison remembered her own gift. Wait, I have something for you too. She fumbled in her purse, pulling out the velvet box. Ethan opened it, and his expression softened. Montauk. The coordinates of our first kiss, Madison confirmed, where it stopped being pretend. Ethan immediately replaced his current tie clip with the new one. I'm never taking this off. The yacht circled Manhattan as they celebrated. They called their families. Madison FaceTimed Sophie, who screamed so loudly the phone speakers distorted. Eleanor and Noah appeared on the dock as they returned, both beaming. Noah hugged Madison tight. "Welcome to the family, officially." "Officially," Madison repeated, the word tasting sweet. Over the next few months, wedding planning consumed their lives. Eleanor wanted a big society wedding. Madison wanted something intimate. They compromised. A ceremony at the estate gardens, 200 guests, elegant but not ostentatious. Madison's father walked her down the aisle on a perfect June day, the sun filtering through the trees, white roses everywhere. And when Ethan turned to watch her approach, his eyes shining with unshed tears, Madison knew with absolute certainty that she'd made the right choice. Every choice, from that first 60 seconds to this moment. They wrote their own vows. Ethan promised to always choose her, to trust her, to build a life where they both could grow. Madison promised to challenge him, to love him even when he was difficult, to be his partner in every sense. When the officiant pronounced them married and Ethan kissed her, the crowd erupted in applause. But Madison only heard the beating of her own heart, synchronized perfectly with his. At the reception, they had their first dance to a slowed-down version of the song that had played at the gala where they'd met. "Who knew that the worst night of my life would lead to the best?" Ethan murmured against her hair. "It wasn't 60 seconds, Madison said. "It was fate." "Do you believe in fate?" "I believe in us," Madison said simply. "That's enough." As they swayed together, surrounded by family and friends, Madison thought about that scared girl in the navy dress, standing alone at a wedding, watching a man get slapped. She'd never imagined that helping a stranger would change her entire life. But the best things she'd learned often came from unexpected moments, from taking chances, from saying yes when logic said no, from trusting that love, real love, was worth every risk. Ethan spun her out and back into his arms, and Madison laughed, the sound carrying across the garden. This was it. The happy ending that had started with a slap, a 60-second lie, and a choice to trust a stranger. "I love you, Mrs. Cross," Ethan whispered. "I love you too," Madison said, "for much longer than 60 seconds. "Forever," Ethan agreed. "Forever." And as the sun set over the gardens, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, they danced on. Two people who'd found each other in chaos and built something beautiful from the ruins. The end. What did you think of their story? Share your thoughts in the comments on a scale from 0 to 10. What's your rating? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories and check out more emotional stories by clicking on the end screen.